In 2016, around the time the Universe 6 tournament arc of Dragon Ball Super was wrapping up, it was announced that the following arc would see a return of Future Trunks, a very popular character not seen since the Cell arc of Dragon Ball Z. Accompanying the announcement of his return was the announcement of a new mysterious character named Goku Black. 18 at the time, I was largely indifferent to his appearance until I saw episode 50, which depicted Goku Black's first fight against Goku. The battle, even with my current disdain for much of what followed, still ranks as one of my top 10 moments in Super. With this video, I am going to explain why Goku Black was a chance for Super to have a brilliant story that could have surpassed multiple arcs from Z, and how the writers almost completely dropped the ball. Between episode 47, when Black is first introduced, and his transformation into a Super Saiyan Rose in episode 56, I would say Black is almost depicted perfectly. He's introduced as this intimidating Terminator-like mysterious force that's visited a future recovering from an earlier decades-long android threat who manages to commit even worse atrocities, judging by the appearance of the timeline we first see it in Super. When you add the fact that he kills Future Bulma, basically the only character who escaped dying from the androids in that timeline apart from Future Trunks, he makes himself a better arch-nemesis for Future Trunks than even the androids. Remember, Future Vegeta was killed before Future Trunks could even remember him, so Black basically killed the only family Trunks ever had. When Black traveled back to the past in episode 49 and fought Goku in the following episode, he intrigued me for the various comments he made alluding to his body formerly belonging to someone else. I also thought, since Gohan was absent from the spectators watching the fight, that the latter would either beat Black or at least play some major role in the arc. I reasoned that this was similar to Gohan's treatment during the Cell arc, where he was the last Z fighter outside of Yamcha to meet Cell, only meeting him in his final form, in a similar way to Goku meeting Frieza in his final form. I can already see someone that may opine that my speculation was premature to say the least, but I hadn't had that kind of wondering about the future of anything Dragon Ball related since new animated material started being produced regularly. I was more invested in the future of this arc than I was when either Battle of Gods or Resurrection F was announced. The only time through this 9-episode period that Black is depicted poorly is at the climax of his first fight with Goku, where he destroys Future Trunks' time machine, apparently to prevent Trunks from returning to his own timeline. This was very weird because Black traveled to the present after Future Trunks went there, seemingly meaning that he was very determined to kill him. So how would this goal be accomplished if they are in two different timelines and Black gets rid of what he thinks is Trunks' only means of traveling back to his own time? This fight is also notable for being the only time that Black ever appears in the present timeline and is seen by non-Saiyan combatants like Krillin and Piccolo, and I'll mention later how the absence of these two factors hurt the rest of his role in the arc. After this, between episode 51 and episode 56, where we see Black transform, his appearances are somewhat scarce. Episode 51 has a brief scene of him reacting to fighting against Goku, but for the most part, his only real role in the part of the arc between his first and second encounter with the main cast is that brief scene and a few mentions. I can see where some might believe this added to the character's mystique, but let's draw a comparison. Within the Frieza saga, Frieza is introduced very early on, but doesn't have a serious fight, not counting his dominating of Nail until the final act. Despite this, the character has numerous scenes interacting with the Doria, Zarbon, the Ginyu Force, and a general assortment of members of his army. Despite him not interacting with Goku, Gohan, Piccolo, Krillin, or Vegeta for most of the arc, the main protagonist of that arc, one still walks away with enough Frieza scenes to understand his general traits of being interested in the Dragon Balls for mortality to further his influence within his empire. When you contrast this with Black, who we don't see interact with anyone for 5 straight episodes, his character is hurt by not having any meaningful foes or allies to trade banter with. Episode 56 of Dragon Ball Super remains my personal favorite among the series, mainly for its scenes revolving around Vegeta, Future Trunks, Future Mind, Goku Black. It's also notable for being the episode with the most screen time for Goku Black since episode 50, and the first appearance of his Super Saiyan Rose form. I like the design of Super Saiyan Rose. I like the idea of an alternate transformation exclusive to his character, and I don't hold it against episode 56 for not elaborating on how this form was achieved. But it is a valid criticism to say the form comes out of literally nowhere, and it is a regret of mine that this was the case. Remember that 5-episode gap between episodes 50 and 56 that I mentioned earlier? The first appearance of this form could have been enhanced by a few scenes throughout those episodes featuring Black muttering to the various surviving Earthlings about his desire to achieve a transformation like Super Saiyan, but better, or scenes featuring him training by himself with brief glimpses of his hair changing into a pinkish color that would allude to his eventual transformation. To clarify, just because these scenes don't exist doesn't mean I believe episodes 51 to 55 are poorly made. I would humbly ask that you consider that Black at the time was the arc's sole antagonist, an arc that ended up being 20 episodes. This means that for a quarter of his arc, we don't see him either interact with any of the main cast or get any allusions to a specific way in which his plans or goals would be furthered. I've often mentioned that Dragon Ball in its current capacity relies too heavily on Goku, sometimes to the detriment of the overall story. In my opinion, the arc would have been benefited from a clear, even sharing of screen time between two characters, Future Trunks and Goku Black. A struggle between Future Trunks trying to save his timeline a second time, and Goku Black trying to erase life both within Future Trunks' timeline and the main one, as we see scenes of Future Trunks either training with Vegeta, Goku, Gohan, Piccolo, or Krillin, or interacting with members of his family in the present timeline such as Bulma and Trunks. We should have scenes of Goku Black training or terrorizing people in the future timeline while he expresses excitement at the thought of his power increasing so that he can kill Goku and his friends for daring to intervene in his hunt of Future Trunks. This would have added more substance to the Super Saiyan Rose transformation without explicitly stating Black's intent to transform. As things stand, Super Saiyan Rose is just a cool looking transformation with next to no foreshadowing within the story. Episode 56 was also notable for being the introduction of Future Zamasu, who would engage the Saiyans with Goku Black from then on. I've seen some commentators deride this writing decision as making Goku Black part of a team. I personally like the concept because we had not seen two antagonists fighting the main cast together since the Cell arcs Android 17 and 18 versus Future Trunks, Vegeta, Piccolo, and Tien. The only other time this happened was Burter and Jace versus Goku. It was always multiple heroes teaming up against the villains, such as Goku and Piccolo versus Raditz or Gohan, Krillin, and Vegeta versus Second Form Frieza. My issue with Future Zamasu's participation had to do with the ambiguity of the power difference between him and Goku Black. Given that Future Zamasu can seriously harm and potentially kill Goku while the latter is in his Super Saiyan Blue form, it can be inferred that he is only slightly weaker than Goku Black. If Zamasu can achieve strength that is near the level of Goku Black's, it makes Black stand out less as the main antagonist of the arc and more so the Goten to Future Zamasu's Trunks. This could have easily been rectified by establishing that Future Zamasu was only able to be around the Saiyans and Goku Black without dying due to his immortality, and was something of an underling to Goku Black due to the latter's far superior strength. In episode 57, Goku Black and Future Zamasu notice the defeated Goku, Vegeta, and Future Trunks leaving and concede to being content with taking down the trio when they eventually return to the future timeline. This was another mistake that hurt both the arc's narrative and Goku Black's character. When Cell appeared in Dragon Ball Z, Toriyama knew that having him pose a threat to the present timeline would present the arc with more of a stake in the series' status quo than him lurking around in some desolate timeline that the audience only cares about because Future Trunks resides there. Episode 50 is the first and only time we see either Goku Black or Future Zamasu travel to the present timeline. This mistake allows the main cast to treat taking down Goku Black as a matter of convenience rather than necessity, Goku Black is about to fire some blast that's going to kill thousands of people in the city. Oh no, get Goku and Vegeta over there immediately. Goku Black destroys the city in a future timeline. Oh, it's just the backwater hellhole timeline Future Trunks is from. It can wait. There is a 3-episode gap between the second and third encounters between the duo of Goku Black and Zamasu and the Saiyans. I welcome the dialogue we saw between Goku Black and Zamasu at a cabin, where they discussed their intent to kill Goku. This kind of dialogue would be missing if future Zamasu wasn't there as a character that Black could divulge his thoughts to. When the Saiyans return to Future Trunks' timeline in episode 60, Goku Black reveals his true identity after the trio assumes he is a fake Goku created by Zamasu via a wish by the Super Dragon Balls. Goku Black reveals he actually is another timeline Zamasu that swapped bodies with Goku using the Super Dragon Balls and killed Goku, Goten, and Chi-Chi. I was annoyed by this revelation because it meant that Goku Black was now the third Zamasu we had seen in that arc. And I very much like the idea of Zamasu wishing for an evil copy of Goku. I could imagine Goku Black being Zamasu's commentary on a fallen hero, having in his view seen the light and turned to his murderous ideology. Some people forwarded theories that Goku Black was future Goten or Goku from the future without the heart virus, and neither of these theories interested me as much as Zamasu wanting a version of Goku that thought like him. Remember when I mentioned earlier that I thought Gohan would either beat Black or at least play some major role in the arc? This was one of the things that made me regret the arc's choice to keep him restrained to a few non-significant cameos within the story. I admit to being a Gohan fan. Along with Piccolo and Krillin, he's one of my 3 favorite Dragon Ball characters. But I mentioned doing more with them in this arc because they are in the arc already, albeit in less meaningful roles. It was forwarded that Vegeta wanted to beat Goku Black due to the latter's abuse of Future Trunks and murder of Future Bulma, that he was upset because a version of the people that he loved had been attacked by this villain. When Goku, after learning how Goku Black came to be and what he did to Goku's family, has a rage boost in episode 61, it was the same thing. Goku and Vegeta were both shown to be enraged that Black did horrible things to alternate versions of their family members. This could have been the perfect motivation for Gohan to be involved in the arc and fight Black at least once. I could imagine him saying to Black, "How dare you kill my family and desecrate my father's image by committing crimes with his appearance?" Likewise, I could picture Black mentioning what he did to his timeline's version of Adele and Pan, and mocking Gohan for being so much weaker than his father, regardless of how true either statement is, as we never directly are told about Black killing Fidel or Pan, or knowing what the power difference is between Gohan and Goku. Seeing a version of Goku berate Gohan for failing to protect his family and live up to the strength of his father would mirror frustrations on the parts of fans of the character. Seeing a version of Goku berate Gohan for failing to protect his family and live up to the strength of his father would mirror frustrations on the part of fans of the character, whether they believe he should be the main character or at least play some important role in the story. This could show Black's intelligence due to him researching members of the cast, and further Zamasu's interest in Goku by being aware of people that were important to him. Another character that could have benefited Black is Krillin. The only time Krillin sees Black is during episode 50, where he, Piccolo, Future Trunks, and Vegeta serve as spectators during the Super Saiyan Goku versus Goku Black fight. In a portion of the Golden Frieza retelling and the lead up to the Tournament of Power, we see Krillin's abrasiveness regarding his combat skills, and his various losses and deaths have contributed to him not believing he is that strong of a fighter. Having Krillin travel to Future Trunks' timeline with the Saiyans could lead to Goku Black remarking that Krillin's come to die a 4th time, and it would be fitting for he himself as Goku to kill him this time, given the way it affected him the first 2 times. In other words, Goku Black would talk to Krillin as though he is Goku. Krillin could become upset with these comments, along with the rest of what Black has done, and be motivated to do whatever he can to stop him. Maybe while Future Trunks is fighting Goku Black, Krillin could use Solar Flare to keep blinding him, and he could comment that his next death certainly won't be from some green goof with a knockoff body of his best friend. While I intend to do a video discussing how wasted she was across all of Dragon Ball after her first appearance, one could make the case that Android 18 would have benefited being given a prominent role in the Future Trunks arc. Dragon Ball has a strong theme of redemption. Tien is the main villain of Tien Shinhan arc and becomes one of the main protagonists of the arc immediately preceding that one. Piccolo Jr. is the main villain of the last arc of Dragon Ball and becomes one of the main protagonists of not just the Saiyan saga but all of Z. Having Android 18 battle Goku Black at least one time would have been part of this tradition while also showing how different she is in the present timeline compared to her future psychopath self. It would also show that while some enemies are redeemable, like Piccolo, Vegeta, or 18, there are others like Cell and Goku Black that are not, and reinforce the pure evil of Black. While Goku and Vegeta travel back to the past, Future Trunks uses his new Super Saiyan Rage form to combat Goku Black in his own timeline. This form is able to fight evenly with Goku Black and on par with both the latter and Future Zamasu. Putting aside that this is another transformation that comes out of nowhere, it indirectly hurts Goku Black as a character given that it eliminates the power advantage he had over Future Trunks and should thereby make the latter as strong as Goku and Vegeta, or on some level similar to the pair. The arc probably could have ended here with Future Trunks defeating Goku Black and either Vegeta or Goku capturing Future Zamasu. Instead, there are several more episodes that contribute to the total and complete damnation of Black's character. Episode 63 features the return of Goku and Vegeta to the future timeline and has a fight between Vegeta and Goku Black where the latter finds himself overwhelmed by Vegeta. If the arc had ended here with Goku Black being killed by Vegeta and Goku and Future Trunks sealing the immortal Future Zamasu with the Mafuba, I would have no complaints. Black would have been treated as the threat that he was, and Vegeta would have exacted revenge in the names of both Future Trunks and Bulma. Instead, Goku Black and Future Zamasu fuse into Merged Zamasu, a form that is eventually defeated but introduced at the cost of removing Goku Black from the arc for its remainder. Remember when I said that Goku Black was the Goten, the Future Zamasu's Kid Trunks? This is what I was talking about. The writers let marketing get in the way of having two competent antagonists that could be defeated in different ways in favor of some form that we knew instantly would be defeated shortly after its introduction. Merged Zamasu lasts 4 episodes, an even shorter lifespan than the 5 episodes of Super 17 and Dragon Ball GT. Merged Zamasu being the final villain was a writer's way of telling fans, you thought Goku Black was going to be killed outright after overwhelming all of the protagonists like Frieza, Cell, and Boo? Ha! We need a stupid fusion that's going to get killed shortly after his introduction, but be around long enough to sell toys. To hell with the satisfying outro for the supposed main antagonist of the arc. The Future Trunks arc is 20 episodes, the same length as the King Piccolo arc in Dragon Ball. Given that I have high praise of the pacing of the King Piccolo arc and its handling of its main antagonist, I was wondering how I would have such a smaller opinion of the pacing of the Future Trunks arc and its handling of its main antagonist. Then I realized that King Piccolo does not disappear between episodes like Goku Black does, and the story of the King Piccolo arc frames itself as the 3 tales of Goku, Tien, and King Piccolo. Most of the time, unless the Saiyans are fighting him, Goku Black disappears from the story. I can only count 3 instances where he has screen time and is not interacting with one of the protagonists. I didn't intend for this video to be a rewrite of the Future Trunks arc, but it could have been rewritten to make Goku Black the threat he was supposed to be. After his first fight with Goku in episode 50, Goku Black could travel back to the past until coming back to the present and destroying cities. Piccolo would intercept this and have a fight with Black that the latter would let him win in order to lower Piccolo's guard and have Piccolo leave satisfied with his victory. During their fight, Goku Black is exposed to Piccolo's various techniques and conceives the idea of an alternate Super Saiyan transformation. Black would then train in secret, having been boosted from his fight with Piccolo. He would have a fight with Krillin that he would similarly let the latter win and appear to be destroyed during. He would destroy a city, with his attack being intercepted by the group of Goku, Piccolo, Future Trunks, Krillin, and Vegeta, and he would then reveal his Super Saiyan Rose transformation, thanking Goku, Piccolo, and Krillin for helping him to boost his power. He would defeat Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, similar to the actual story's events, and future Zamasu would appear in the present. Their pair would be able to fend off the other four and force them to retreat. Gohan, incensed over Black's killing of innocent people, would start training again. Black would have a rematch with Goku where he reveals his origins and defeats Goku. Gohan would be upset over his father's loss and train with Piccolo, Krillin, Future Trunks, and Vegeta have an actual confrontation with Black. Goku would learn Mafuba from Master Roshi with Future Trunks. The final fight would end with Future Zamasu being hit by a solar flare from Krillin that would blind him long enough for Goku and Future Trunks to use the Mafuba to seal Future Zamasu, and Goku Black would be killed by a Kamehameha wave and Gallic Gun from Gohan and Vegeta. One might draw issue with my revision's lack of having Future Trunks being the one to beat Goku Black. My reasoning is that the power increase that Future Trunks receives in such a short amount of time during the Future Trunks arc was poor storytelling, especially when compounded with us only seeing him train with Vegeta once during the entire arc. Vegeta experiencing a power increase in this same time that allows him to be competitive with Goku Black is much easier to believe given the massive power gap between Future Trunks and Vegeta at the start of the Future Trunks arc. But the main reason for having Vegeta be one of the two characters that kills Black in this revision would be to have the foreshadowing of his anger toward Black for killing an alternate version of his family actually panning out to a decisive victory for the heroes. There are many people who would have liked Vegeta to be the one to kill Frieza in Resurrection F, myself included. But Goku Black being the first major villain he kills in the franchise would be more in line with his current portrayals of being concerned more for his family than himself. I've been accused of trying to make characters who are considered done capable of still contributing to the plot, and the reason my revision includes Krillin, Piccolo, and Gohan in more prominent roles than they had in the actual Future Trunks arc is due to the fact that they are in the actual arc. This is why I would include the three of them and not other characters I like such as Yamcha, Tien, or Buu, as those three do not appear in the arc. Really, this rewrite is just me taking my recollections of what I thought they were going to do with Goku Black's character when the arc started, and justifying why it's superior to the story that we got. My overall impression of the Future Trunks arc at the time was that it had a similar preface to the Cell Saga, with the main villain that the heroes from the present timeline have to face to save their own timeline. My revision is still different enough to not be a blatant copy of the Cell Saga, but the idea of Future Trunks coming back to the past and a villain from an alternate timeline threatening the present timeline are the main connections. Cell is my favorite villain from Dragon Ball Z. And one of the things I liked about his arc over most of the others, aside from the Saiyan Saga, is that it featured the majority of the active Z fighters, Goku, Gohan, Krillin, Piccolo, Vegeta, Future Trunks, Tien, and Yamcha, all having at least 2 encounters with the arc's villains. Cell alone fought Piccolo, Vegeta, Future Trunks, Goku, and Gohan in that order, and both Krillin and Tien tried to attack him as best they could. It's really the only arc of Z where the cast felt like a team instead of 1 to 3 characters being expected to save the day. Goku Black would have benefited greatly from having at least 5 characters to fight over the course of his arc, as it would allow him to have multiple battles that do not feel redundant due to it being the same characters fighting repeatedly, with the only difference being who has received an unexplained transformation or boost in power. Instead of watching him fight Goku, Vegeta, and Future Trunks 3 times, wouldn't it have been more interesting to see him battle Future Trunks, then Piccolo, then Vegeta, then Krillin, then Goku, then have a final fight with Gohan and Vegeta that ends with his death? I said earlier that his Super Saiyan Rose transformation came out of nowhere. Having Black battle multiple characters of varying power over the course of the arc would have made his transformation more believable to me in terms of organically showing his power increase. Overall, I like Goku Black because I find him to be intimidating, have a good character design, and be an evil Goku done in an interesting way. I find the arc that he is in to not utilize him as a proper antagonist in the tradition of King Piccolo, Frieza, Sailor Buu, due to keeping him solely a threat to an alternate timeline the audience is much less invested in when compared to the present timeline most of the series takes place in. Having him disappear for multiple episodes at a time rather than being treated as a main character of the arc in his own right, only allowing him to fight 3 Z fighters, and his being reduced to a component of the final villain of his supposed arc. Though he starts off strong, all Goku Black amounts to is a gateway to introducing both versions of Zamasu and being half of a fusion. The only reason he stands out in Super is that he, along with Zamasu, technically are the only original villains from the series, as the other main antagonists in Super, such as Beerus, Frieza, Hit, or Jiren, either were introduced in Z or are not actually evil. Given that the only villain the series seems to bring back ever is Frieza, I don't see the wasted character that was Goku Black being rectified through some grand return that cements him as more than just Zamasu's partner or merged Zamasu's component. And that's unfortunate.